Welcome to our late show, Git Good, with your hosts, Bellator Lucis and Commander Caine. Tonight, we have a special treat for you guys, as we have on with us our guest host, Genos. He will be on hand to help us interview our friends from Team Secret Oatmeal, who have once again claimed server first for the latest Alexander raid tier, The Creator. For those of you watching on an archive, this aired on Saturday, November 5th at 11 p.m. Central. And for those that are not quite with us in game yet, you can join us at the FC Cataclysm House in the Mist, Ward 8, Plot 35. By attending, you'll be eligible for a mini-game with a high-quality I-250 chest piece as your reward. With that said, I'd like to introduce our... Damn it, Caine. With that said, I'd like to introduce our co-host for the night, Genos. Genos, you got anything to say?
Not really. This is going to be fun. I think you guys will enjoy this shit. I'm pretty hyped right now. Are you guys hyped? I'm pretty hyped.
Oh,
I'm pretty hyped.
I'm ready to do this.
Yeah, this isn't your first rodeo show. You've been with us before. And with us today, we have members of Secret Oatmeal online. We have T-Bow and Sammy. Guys, can you please introduce yourselves a little bit?
I'm T. I play tank, and I'm here to win the minigame.
I'm Sammy, better known as Ezreal Samaya across the server, and I play Bard or Machinist if I want to fuck with our Summoner and Astro.
Perfect.
Great intros. So for those of you that have that watched our first interview, T is returning interviewee, and Sammy is new with us tonight. Thank you for filling in on late notice.
No problem.
And Caine, just to make sure that we do this properly this time, I'd like to shout out the people who are currently with us in game as part of our audience at the beginning of the show. So we currently have Steph in the audience, as well as us here as interviews in the basement. So Steph, shout out to Steph.
Yes.
Hello, I'm gonna wave to her. She's waving. She's saying hi.
Alrighty.
The Marvel technology. We can make our avatars wave hi.
It's a beautiful thing.
And a slight reminder, or a little reminder on the minigame, the cutoff period will be about 10 minutes into the show. So if you're going to be a little late, that's okay. You got 10 minutes to make it from the start. And we had a little bit of a rain delay anyways tonight, where we started about 15 minutes late. So about 8 minutes from now is the cutoff for being eligible for the prize. With that being said, and getting all the boring stuff out of the way, I will hand the mic over to Caine to get started with the questions.
All right. So the very first question is, how does it feel to be the server first again? I mean, it was a really close race between you guys and Phoenix.
It's nice. I mean, we had pretty limited raid time this tier, and we lost a week because I had to go somewhere for work. But the team really put in a lot of effort in studying the fights beforehand and being ready for raid and stuff like that. So I'm pretty proud of everyone for working hard.
Good.
Yeah, I'd certainly agree. Given our limited raid schedule and everything, we definitely made the most of our time. And I'm going to say that I definitely contributed to our lack of raid time with my work as well. So,
hey man, real life comes first, right?
That it
Sort
does.
All right. So, how long did you guys raid, and what were the milestones for this tier for you guys?
Sure. So in terms of just our normal raid schedule, we're probably doing around 9 hours a week. I think the first week we did a little more time, maybe like 12 hours. And generally sort of just push for when we're getting close to a clear, we'll push maybe an extra hour or two in that week. Milestones, I mean, beating A12, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's the milestone that we were looking for. As for, say, how long each floor took, we beat A9 on the first day we went in. It took us a little over an hour. And then A10, we beat later on in the week. It probably took us 2 hours. A11 actually took us longer than 12, and so A11 is because we had to sort of relearn the final phase, so that took a while. So we had maybe 12 to 14 hours in 11, and then it took us only 10 hours, surprisingly, on 12. It was 2 full days of Prague, and then like a half day here or there.
That's not bad. You guys got it relatively quickly, so.
Yeah,
You got anything to add? Oh, go ahead, Tim. Sorry.
Oh, no, we definitely put a lot of effort into learning A12 ahead of time, or knowing as much as we could before that. But overall, I think as far as milestones go, we didn't really have anything in mind. I think clearing 9 and 10 was the expectation for the first week. And then as far as 11 goes, if we had the opportunity to raid as long as some of the more hardcore groups, we probably could have cleared 11 within the first week as well. But overall, I mean, basically exactly what T said. We made the most of our time, and we definitely progressed at a pretty decent rate as well.
Did you guys, what kind of hurdles did you guys face in terms of like time or when I wrote down milestones, I was kind of thinking like, you know, where was a potential hard
choke
spot
point?
something that maybe slowed you down, at least in relative to how long you guys were raiding and seeing, you know, the effort that it took to get all the way to 12 and then beat it.
Within the fights, it was definitely the last phase of 11. We sort of had to reinvent our strategy to make it through. And for people who aren't as familiar, there's basically 3 towers, and they all have sort of a number of HP, and some of the mechanics do unavoidable damage to those. So it acts as like a soft enrage to the fight. And depending on how you play, and if you hit it with things that you could possibly not hit it with, just certain AoEs that are centered around players, then it'll take down the towers faster than just the unavoidable damage. And so when we sort of started first, we were mainly just sort of putting these AoEs wherever, and as a result, the towers sort of went down faster, and we died much earlier than we were expecting to. And so we spent a couple hours sort of reinventing that. I'd say that was the biggest challenge in Prague for us.
Yeah, I definitely agree. As far as progression went, 9 and 10 went pretty smoothly, and then as far with 11, like you said before, we spent more time in 11 than 12 for sure. And with 11, it was this weird combination of trying to figure out how to properly disperse the AoEs so that they wouldn't destroy one of the towers without end up getting anyone else killed, which was a little bit of a struggle for us for a little bit. And I think at one point we had like a 6%. We got A11 down to 6%, and we ended up wiping because of one of the unavoidable AoEs that wiped out the last tower. And so that was a little frustrating, which made, like T said, made us reinvent the entire way that we performed the last phase.
That's cool to hear. Like, just knowing, you know, the kind of things you have to deal with. What do you think? What do you think of the cooldown reset this tier? Do you think it made a pretty big impact on how you do things and how you like figure stuff out and how you test out new strategies?
You can go ahead first, Sammy, if you want.
I would say that the biggest thing at this point was the fact that we didn't have to wait on hallowed ground.
Oh, thank God, yeah.
No, I'm actually kidding about that. Overall, the cooldown reset was actually really nice. Not only not having to wait on the long cooldowns, because we were able to do quicker pulls and adjust our strategy accordingly, But also, I mean, it obviously mitigated the time that we needed to learn each fight. I mean, you start every fight off at the same exact position at the very beginning every single time, and you can kind of work your rotation around at that point and then just adjust as necessary, depending on what's coming up in the fight, for especially what you don't know. So the cooldown reset was much appreciated, and it was definitely long overdue.
Yeah, it was really nice to have. The Hall Ground thing, I was expecting to sort of like cheese it more, but there's nothing really to cheese with any of my cooldowns, so I didn't get to really make the most of it. It would be nice though, like if we wipe, like exactly what Sammy said, the sort of consistency of having everyone's cooldowns up right away, and so people not sort of winging their cooldowns a little bit if we went, because at least in last year we pulled pretty fast. I sort of kept the pace of the raid going, but I think even these cooldown resets helped us move along. It wasn't like we were waiting on cooldowns to start. It was more just we started when we were ready to start. But I think the funniest thing about cooldown reset is though, in A9 after we kill Faust, we always wipe ourselves to reset our cooldowns.
Yep.
And it's funny because it takes like a minute for the boss to actually kill the party. So we're just sort of standing around there, and David's always standing outside the instance to keep his cards, and it's just funny stuff like that.
You guys go off and die in there. I'm just gonna come out here and save my balance.
That's pretty much exactly what happens.
That's exactly what David says.
That sounds exactly what something David would do.
All right. Well, moving on then to the next one. Did crafted gear make a noticeable impact this tier? For example, crafted weapons versus Sophic versus Shire.
So we didn't actually really craft any gear until we got to A11, just as like a little extra push and a little extra HP to make it easier on the healers. I don't think a single one of us got crafted weapons. Actually, the first day we actually went back into A8, which didn't even have echo or anything. It's pretty much the same fight, just to get our last clear, so everyone could have their Mitre weapons. So we did that first, and then we sort of all got our Sophia weapons on our own time, and then the nice thing about clearing the A10 in the first week is that we started getting the tomestones, even though we couldn't really get those weapons until week 3, which is part of the reason why we actually went back into Midas, got the last clear, so that we could have a little bit of an extra bump in our gear. But overall, I wouldn't say that we hit a gear wall or anything. It was more of just a comfortability thing. Yeah.
I'll jump in here now. So, do you actually feel like you could have cleared in the entire Creator Savage using the best in slot that you got from Midas?
It would have been tricky. 11 definitely. 12 would have been pretty dicey. There's a lot of times where I swear I was dead and like I'd have almost no HP because 12 hits so ridiculously hard, even compared to 11. Like 11 hits way harder than 10 and 12 hits way harder than 11. 11 we could have cleared in best in slot gear, but you have to play pretty well, and with the Vuln stack mechanic, it would get pretty difficult pretty quickly.
Yeah, I'd certainly agree with what he has to say on that. As far as the gear goes, and all the respect to Tristan in the world, because he did a majority of the gear crafting for our group, and it was just absolutely crazy. But it definitely helped with the DPS checks, though. For 9 and 10, I don't think we had any crafted gear whatsoever, so we didn't really need it at that point. And I think that even without the crafted gear on 11 or 12, we probably would have been able to clear the DPS checks regardless. more than anything, I think that what T was saying before was that the crafted gear helped much more with healers on 12, just because of the HP checks. And I do think that we could have cleared 12 without the crafted gear, but being able to penameld and prioritize vitality in those first slots on your right side pieces definitely helped out a ton.
Okay. All right. So next question. Overall, how did this tier compare to the two previous tiers of Alexander?
Definitely easier, but I mean that was the intention. In terms of the fights themselves, just the look of them, the feel of them, I really enjoyed 10, 11, 12. 9 is probably my least favorite fight of this tier, because especially as a tank, it's the main tank. It's incredibly boring. I just sort of stand there and rotate. But 10 I felt was sort of the most creative fight. I loved the different mechanics in there, and especially the little in-out spread stacks sort of thing that he does, where you have to read what the sign above his head. I thought that was pretty fun.
Oh yeah, I definitely like the how you actually have to use the buttons and switches and stuff to try throughout the fight to help push and mitigate and all that fun stuff. I actually enjoy that fight. It's probably one of my favorite ones too so far.
Yeah, I definitely say that this tier, obviously with it being easier, and that was by design, it's nice being able to get the clear as soon as we did and everything else, but it doesn't really hold up to, in my opinion, what A8 did for us, just because of the amount of time and effort that we put into it. Just spending the weeks, or I guess actually months, getting up to our A8 clear was pretty intense, and clearing A12 as quickly as we didn't quite hold up to that standard. But overall, I mean, it's what the raid tier needs right now to build up the community again. So I'm actually perfectly content with the way that it ended up being.
Yeah, I agree. I'm pretty happy with the difficulty level. Personally, I mean, I wish it was more difficult, but I don't mind that it was easier than the last two tiers.
Oh, absolutely. We're seeing essentially a new influx of raiders and people trying to actually step into it, which I think is great because that's something we needed for, especially on a small server like Famford, because we've only had, at one point in the last year, maybe 12 teams raiding. And that was a ridiculously low number. Now I don't even know how many groups we've got raiding now. I'm sure we're probably at least double what we were last year, but
it's definitely double since the last time. Actually, there are even 2 new groups that have been reporting to me about their clears and stuff. Oh, wow. It's actually quite amazing to see.
Yeah, I really like hearing about the new groups that are raiding. Sometimes I'll browse FF logs and see how many more people have clears in 10 and 11, and I know the numbers getting a lot better. It's definitely a lot higher than last year.
And even the progression thread is starting to see some new life in there. Like I saw a couple of new faces, which is really nice to see.
Actually, shout out to the progression thread if anyone hasn't visited the official forums, which I definitely didn't until I started raiding. If you go to the official forums, and navigate to the world section, you can go to Famford server, and the biggest thread on there is sort of the progression thread, which has been going on since Gordius. And so if you're a raid group or whatever, you can post a screenshot with your party list and your loot, and they'll record your clear with your group name and stuff like that. I think it was more of a relic of Rome Reborn, and a lot more people posted back then. But yeah,
definitely a big shout out to Jess for keeping up with that, even though she transferred over to Leviathan. Like the fact that she's gone out of her way to manage that and keep it updated as often as she has is just a true testament to what she is as a player and a person.
So, did you guys see the changes you wanted to see this tier? I mean, with difficulty level, new mechanics, anything new or surprising to you?
I like the sort of diversity of mechanics. I think they did a good job of sort of, not having a tower, like stand in these towers and like dodge the dive bombs and that sort of thing. They came up with a sufficient number of new mechanics and phases. I would have liked to see like one DPS check or something. Maybe I just didn't feel it as much as a tank, where the DPS check sort of falls in sort of individual. Especially in 12, there was like sort of like an individual DPS check or roll check, really, not just DPS. But overall, I'm pretty happy with what they did with the tier. It's good to see, and I hope they sort of continue coming up with new mechanics. Because I'm sure it's not easy to come up with new things. It's pretty hard being a designer of fights.
Yeah, I certainly agree. Like I said before, I wish that the tier would have been a little bit more difficult, but I know that right now what the raid tier needs is something a little bit easier to get more people involved in raiding. And overall, I think that it definitely accomplished what it intended to do. As far as mechanics go, it definitely incorporated some new things that we hadn't seen before. Nothing that was over the top and that we couldn't figure out, but overall, it made the fights definitely more engaging. And I feel that as far as 9 and 10 were concerned, it actually made them a lot more fun for at least startup tiers. 11 was a little bit of a pain, and it kind of seemed a little bland, but it was definitely a bit of a jump from 10 to 11, so it was much appreciated also.
So I guess the question here would be, would you want something like an A3S to come back? At least for one of the fights, or no?
Personally, that's like my favorite fight in the game. Maybe if they had A3S and just lightened up on the DPS check, I think it would be a great fight to have something like that. I think that fight, sort of encompass party responsibility, individual responsibility, coordination, boss movement, boss positioning. As a tank, I really enjoyed that fight for sure. There are a lot of different things you could do to improve yourself always in that fight, and it's sort of fun to have fights that you can keep getting better on and make different improvements to really affect the party. In sort of contrast, this tier is a little interesting because you just start skipping mechanics all over the place, and sometimes it feels like I'm in a new fight. In 9 and 10, I honestly don't even know what mechanic comes next all the time. I just sort of wing it. Because like we just skip things. I'm like, okay, I guess this is happening now, and I'll be like, I think a tank buster's coming. I guess I'll use a cooldown now. I know it's extremely comforting to hear. Good thing my healers aren't here. But yeah, like those fights we just like start skipping the most random things, like, and it's confusing. And then you'll have like if someone dies and you're trying to just keep a run going, you'll see the mechanic again, and so you never really know what to expect. I'm not so sure how I feel about that kind of thing in a fight, but it keeps it interesting.
Yeah, I don't really know how I feel about the idea of having another A3 type fight. I cleared it before Midas came out, and it was quite the experience because my first raid group that I had, we weren't able to get past it for various issues. and it was extremely frustrating. But when I finally cleared it, I actually saw it for what it was, and it was actually a very well-tuned fight, and it was something that I actually really enjoyed. But ultimately, with its reputation as a static breaker, it probably isn't something that I would want to see again, in the sense that I don't want to have the repercussions of what A3 had on the entire server as a whole before. As much as I would like to see one again, maybe in the sense of having it in the same sense that Second Coil Savage was, that would be more interesting. But overall, I don't think it's something that we would want to see incorporated into another raid tier. Not to necessarily that difficulty, and maybe if they were to incorporate something like that, give it the same kind of spin that they did for this raid tier, where one person dying isn't going to be an automatic wipe for the entire party. So.
Yeah, I agree with what Sammy's saying. That's true. The repercussions were definitely worse than the fact that it was like the best fight. But I'd love to see a creator savage, something like that.
And I most certainly agree with that. I would like to see something that would really push our abilities.
I was actually talking to. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
You're good. I was just gonna say. I was talking to Bell about it. If they redid coils, except savage versions of them, like. I want to know how intense like T13 would be on a savage level at the eye level that we're at right now. Like, I think that would be something that would be kind of cool to witness and experience.
Yeah, I'd really enjoy that.
Do we even know exactly the official reason why they didn't do that? Was it the whole being... No, I don't even think they used the reason that it was gated behind story, because story came from doing 10 through 13. Is there a reason why they didn't have a savage version of Final Quell?
I'm guessing it's just the resources.
I think
low playing time and resources.
I think part of it was not only the resources, but also the fact that I don't want to say that they messed up how they did Second Coil Savage, but the way that they presented it was that like it was hardware tier content that had titles alone, but it was also gated in the sense that in order to complete any of the Savage Second Coil tiers, it also ran off the same I guess weekly
The lockout, right?
Yeah, the same weekly lockout that regular Coil did. So if they had created it in such a way that maybe Savage Second Coil ran off its own lockout, so that you could do, say, T7 regular and get your gear, and then do T7 Savage, and if you clear that, then you got gear as well. I think that would have caused more groups to actually pursue it at that point. But it was such a terrible thing to have to try and do progression on both of those at the same time without screwing your group over and not getting your clears through all four for the week, that ultimately destroyed the idea of what Savage was supposed to be.
That makes a lot of sense. Well, Yoshi P, if you happen to be listening, you hear that? we would love to see. Yeah, right. We would love to see a Savage version of Final Coil.
Just give us separate lockouts, and we'll be fine. We'll be okay with that.
Hell, it's not. I was gonna say not even the gear. Maybe the title or some kind of glamour or something, or amount.
Right. Exactly. Something. Gear I don't really care about. I mean, unless it's a dyeable Dreadworm Claymore, then I'm all in. But I mean, I think it would just be cool to have something like that as a side project, as something else for raiders to do, because I know clearing the Alexandrian stuff every week gets kind of boring and tedious. So
yeah. Throw that in, give us another, stretch out an extra 2-3 months, maybe even, I don't know, 1 or 2 months between now and 4.0, and we'll be good. Alright, so back to Alexander. What team compositions did you guys settle on? Did you do any switching between like for like A12 for instance? I hear I hear Dark Knight is more favorable than Paladin. Any of
Yeah.
that go on?
Yeah, so I did go Dark Knight for 12 only because like it's way better than Paladin on that fight, and we wanted to clear it fast. And like the int down is a big help, as well as the Dark Mind cooldown. It just Paladin is such a weaker class on that fight. It's a little ridiculous. Other than that, we didn't really change our comp. Everyone for this tier sort of played what they wanted to play, whatever they're most comfortable on. David switched to Astro this tier from last year, which I think was definitely a good choice. Astro is extremely strong right now. I'd say it's probably better than White Mage, to be honest. It's really good. But yeah, going Dark Knight was something I just sort of accepted. I did it for Gordius too, and I'm like a little salty about it, but like not really. It's just like I prefer playing Paladin, and I think Dark Knight is just like I don't know.
It's okay
One word to describe it is dank.
That's garbage.
It's dank to me.
Yeah, definitely. As far as team composition, was T was saying before, overall, like, not really a whole lot changed aside from him and David. David, like you said, went to Astrologian, and David's decision on that was partially played on by the fact that they gave Astrologian some pretty good buffs on top of that, but also that David wanted a class that he felt that he could focus more on healing with than DPS, because his White Mage DPS got pretty crazy at times. And then also T going Dark Knight for A12 is definitely a testament to his ability to be able to switch between main tank roles. Like, I know that at one point Tristan had he had discussed with the group of going Monk at one point for the intelligence debuff, and T ultimately said that it was probably better for him to stick as a ninja for his own DPS, and that it would probably be better for raid utility as a whole. And it definitely ended up working out for us. So
Yeah.
Overall, I mean, as far as DPS classes went, we all stayed exactly the same. Hawken stayed as Scholar because at this point Scholar is mandatory for every group, and then same thing with Rain staying as Warrior, because you can't really if you're trying to push progression super early, you can't really go away from either of those classes. So
The idea, Tristan saying ninja as well, in my opinion, the best thing about ninja is Shadewalker, and especially pushing early prog, I can drop tank stance really early and keep aggro, especially on A12. Actually, Dark Knight is much worse at holding aggro because of the way their highest DPS combos have no enmity built into them, whereas Paladin does. And so with Dark Knight, it's a lot better, I think, to have a ninja, just because it helps so much. And that I know there were a couple times when we were progging A12 and I just like hadn't used any aggro combos since like the beginning of the fight, and Sam is like, I have aggro, and then he's like dead.
yeah, there were definitely a couple of times where I wasn't even paying attention to my own DPS or like my own aggro table, and I would just like, or the boss. I normally stand to the west of the boss, and just the boss would turn to me and like cleave me immediately and like kill me, and like no one else would be like killed in the process, but I would just kind of just stare awkwardly, and I wouldn't have any idea what would happen until someone pointed it out.
Yeah.
But overall, Ninja definitely it works best for our raid group composition as a whole.
Neat. I literally just got I'm gonna be honest, got distracted a little bit when I was like, oh, did T just say Paladin? Well, you said the Dark Knight DPS combo was not their enmity combo, which
which got 0 enmity.
When it comes to Paladin, did you mean that like Paladins or had it easier? Because I know that, for instance, Warrior has it. It's awesome because their enmity combo is their DPS combo. Is it similar for Paladin?
Yeah. So with Paladin, people who are familiar, there's 3 combos. There's the Goring Blade combo, which is your dot. You have your Alone combo, which is your biggest aggro combo, and then your Royal Authority combo, which is your DPS combo. Alone and Royal Authority both have the same first 2 parts of the combo, and there's enmity modifiers on both the second and third parts of the Alone combo. So that second part of the home combo is also in the Royal Authority combo. So for example, if you're tanking in Sword Oath as a Paladin, and the fact that you have enmity tied to part of your DPS combo helps holding off other classes in terms of aggro, especially with Paladin DPS being lower than pretty much every class. Though the highest DPS combo on Paladin is keeping up your Goring Blade damage over time. Just wanted to point that out for any Paladins. Keep up the fight. Stay Paladin.
Well, that was the part that tripped me up because I don't have Paladin at 60. I think it's at 55, but I didn't know. Right. It seems like it really boils down to Royal Authority is good enough for doing DPS and holding combo aggro. You don't have to do Halone all the time.
Yeah, pretty much. I'll apply Halone if I know like a physical tank buster is coming in soon, and that's pretty much the only time I'll use it outside of initially when I pull the fight to throw myself a big aggro boost.
That's cool. Well, thanks for the slight aside, a little bit of schooling on Paladin. Yeah. So, I want to move on to the next question, and I want to ask, were there any memorable moments from this raid here? This is a repeat of the question from our last interview. Were there any memorable moments?
Let me think about it for a second. Maybe Sammy has something.
There are probably 2 that come into mind. So as far as memorable moments goes, definitely A11 during the last phase when we realized that our strategy, or at least the way that we were performing certain mechanics, wasn't conducive to keeping or at least one of the towers up. And that's where our 6% wipe came out of, where we had to revamp our strategy. That definitely came to mind as a memorable mechanic. But the idea that A12 put in as far as like a similar gavel mechanic was pretty easy to follow for the most part. It wasn't terribly difficult. But I think the most memorable mechanic at this point for me in this point was A10, where in order to stop the spinning boss was to activate the ice shards, and that was more so memorable to me because it was humorous in the sense that for the longest time David didn't understand why the ice shards were going off at that point. And I don't think it was until week 3 clear that David finally saw that we were purposely activating that in order to stop his spin.
Just don't tell your healer the mechanics. Just say heal me. Stand in the middle. You don't have to do anything.
Yeah, we couldn't figure out why David was getting hit by this mechanic while he was doing an AoE heal, like Helios or something, and then it finally came to light that he didn't know that we were purposely activating it and didn't know why we kept screaming run into the middle. So that was definitely pretty humorous to me, at least.
Memorable moment. Oh, I got one. So when we first started A11, if everyone's familiar with the laser swords, there's left and right laser sword. And so as a main tank, you have to move. So if it says left, the main tank will move left and everyone else will move right. And so I normally do call outs for the group. So I was trying to call out what the group needs to do, which is to move right. but I'm reading left and I need to move left, so I go. I either move the wrong way or I'd say the wrong thing, so someone was gonna get me.
Yeah.
And so eventually, like, the group just stopped listening to me and they like did it themselves. But I was still like left, and then I'd move right, and then I'd get like slapped by the sword, and I'm like, oh my god! And so like the whole group started calling out T left, T left. And it was like, just really funny. So I just like I was like, okay, I'm just putting in the ACT triggers, and I'm not gonna even try to call out that mechanic because it was not happening. It's like that brain teaser where you read the word that's like you read the word red, but you say what color the word is, and so you just say blue, but the word is red, and it like messes with you so much.
Yeah, I'd almost completely forgotten about that. That's actually a really good point. The first phase of A11 was actually really humorous to like watch that, because it's either like half the group would end up getting cleaved because we heard the wrong thing, or T would end up getting hit himself.
That was good. That was a good laugh, for sure.
Yeah, I can say that our main tank also ran into that very same problem. We'd have a guy call out left or right, and he'd walk right into it. So you're not alone.
It's a hard
I
one.
actually had to defer to my warrior for that because I almost made the same mistake, and I was like, "No, fuck that! I'm gonna have somebody else do it now."
Yeah, exactly. I don't even call that mechanic. I just like listen to my robot voice in my computer.
All right,
Oh.
so that kind of tied together memorable moments and memorable mechanics, I guess. Well, yeah, actually, that's a memorable moment. I separated this question because maybe it's not memorable, but it's maybe your favorite mechanic. Can you tell us about your favorite mechanic this right here?
I liked a bunch of them. As I said before, I liked the A10S with the traps and the marks over his head and all that sort of stuff. I also like the steamroller in that fight. It's sort of a fun transition and a little bit different. In A11, I liked the towers. I thought it was really interesting in terms of a fight mechanic, but not necessarily one that I would say I liked. It's just an interesting mechanic from a design perspective. And then A12, I really like the time gates and judgment crystal phase, which if people aren't familiar with, I suggest checking out a video. Basically, the party is split into two groups. You have two DPS, a tank, and a healer that go into these time gates, which bring you to the past or the future or something. I don't know the lore of it. and you're like supposed to stop. I think it's the future, and you're supposed to like stop Alexander from turning back time or something. And so they're like doing their DPS check and their heal check and their tank check. So that's all individual responsibility. And then on the outside, there's sort of like a fairly simple cycle where someone on the team randomly will get a crystal to place down in a certain location on the map, and then you have a boss mechanic, and so it sort of alternates. And it was pretty fun, the coordination necessary to get that done.
Yeah, I certainly agree. The A12 time gates are definitely an interesting mechanic, and I actually really enjoyed how they implemented those. Just in how it definitely puts a lot of responsibility on the individual user as well. Obviously, with the DPS having to complete their DPS checks, but also the healer having to keep themselves up, and the tank having to properly mitigate that. It was certainly really nice. I also really enjoyed the A11 prey. I guess the prey mechanic. I don't really know how you would define that, but basically where you have everyone numbered off, and you have to appropriately position yourself so that you don't end up cleaving the towers and such. Which is something that we end up finding out had to incorporate. But other than that, I mean, nothing else really comes to mind aside from those two for me.
Yeah, and the neat thing about what you guys pointed out was those are pretty much new things. They weren't even. I mean, they're kind of a rehash, like the time gates were your cages, and um, the the markings was just being in proper position, knowing when it was your turn to take your hits. But they were like kind of rehashed mechanics, but they were still new in the way they were presented. So it didn't feel like, oh hey, it's Ravana's Praise again, or hey, it's A7's Cages again.
Yeah, it definitely felt sufficiently new.
Yes, so that's great, and it's great that that was a common theme for your favorite mechanics. For those, I think, for those who care about the lore or want to know or don't know right now for some reason, spoilers. This will probably take about 10-20 seconds, so if you care, stop listening. All right, okay? I gave you enough warning. I think T, you were talking about how you went into Time Gate, and do you skip cutscenes? Just wondering.
You know, I did when we were doing Prague, and then I went back and I watched them on YouTube when I was bored.
Okay. Well, the reason I said it is because I was like, oh, okay. You would know if you watch the cutscene like after, I think it was after 11. You don't go, or when you're in 12 and you go into time gates, you don't go into the future. You go into the past, and it blew my mind. And actually, it blew my mind because I didn't know until I actually went on YouTube to find a video because I play Scholar mostly. So in 12, I was always healing, and I never went into the time gates. It was always DPS. Um, and so I didn't even know what went on in there. Not until I saw the Reddit thread, and I was like, oh, I have to watch. And I checked it out on YouTube. And just recently, I've been able to do it as a DPS, which made me happy. But still continuing, spoilers are still here. You go into the time gate, and you go into the past, and you essentially save yourself from getting hit by a laser, which blew my mind when I saw it. And the person, so when you're up there fighting the ads, um, the party, I mean, the regular NPCs, they don't change, but the person standing next to them, you see yourself down there, and it's different for every person. You see yourself, and if you clear the check, you live, and if you fail, you obviously die in the past, so you can't exist in the future, and that's what causes the party to wipe. So, quick aside, that's what went on. That was the lore behind it. Spoilers over. All right. So with that said, you were talking about mechanics. Any tips or tricks you'd like to share with your fellow raiders? Secrets to spill?
Secrets. I don't know. Try your best. Have fun. Find a group that fits you best. I think that personally, our biggest secret to doing well is just watching video and studying the fights beforehand.
Yeah, I can't really say that there are any secrets or tips that I could give to other raiders aside from at the very least DPS. Obviously, knowing your class almost to the point where it's completely second nature and you don't have to think about it. But overall, depending on the fight and what the mechanic is, or what exactly is going on, having an idea of, or I guess just understanding what all the mechanics are. Don't just focus on what mechanics you're required to know as an individual class, but understand exactly what mechanics are going on and like why, what affects what is going on in the area at that point, and like why other people have to do certain things, because it certainly helps in the sense that if something is to go wrong, that maybe you can mitigate the amount of damage that ends up being caused to your raid group. Say if you get targeted by an AoE or a specific attack that's going on, and you can maybe just completely sacrifice yourself instead of ending up like taking out multiple people with you. It definitely helps out a ton. But also just like in regards to this raid, don't get super frustrated with your other players. Like obviously if someone's having trouble learning a mechanic, like try and discuss with them what it is that they're not understanding. Maybe you need to go over exactly what it is they need to do. And for some people, it's not necessarily just explaining to them where they need to go, but explaining to them, like what I was saying before, how a mechanic works out. And explaining that to some people can actually be more beneficial to them in the sense that they'll actually understand why they need to be in what position. So that's really all I have to say about it.
Sweet. Yeah, I know a lot of new groups, especially like brand new raiders, have that issue of getting frustrated with each other and not talking about it and just sitting there and letting all that bad juju just sit there and stew and not even try to figure out what happened.
That's exactly the phrase I was thinking. Bad juju.
So, I mean, you have to be able to discuss things and try to figure out a solution to the problem instead of just jumping down each other's throat, like T had said. Or Sammy, sorry. You've got to be able to communicate effectively. All right, so on to the next question. What's your view of the current raid scene? I know we had briefly touched on it earlier, but I mean, for our server especially, I mean, how do you guys feel about it?
I know that it's definitely looking good. I see a lot of people pugging and stuff, and I know Geno has been doing a really great job of keeping track of everyone. Maybe he can also help us explain this, but I definitely, see people in the fights and have been, helping a few friends do other fights when I'm in my free time and stuff like that.
Yeah,
I guess oh, go ahead.
All that I was really going to say is, like, as far as the current raid scene goes, I mean, I definitely appreciate what SE has tried to do in the sense that they're trying to incorporate more mid-core groups, and it's definitely worked out because obviously we've seen more groups clearing content as time has gone on, and it's been really encouraging to see the raid community develop as a whole and recover from the effects of Gordias, which we've basically been experiencing for over the past year now. So it's definitely been really nice. Other than that, I mean, having content that is as difficult as A8 or A4 was would be nice to an extent, but overall, that is more vanity than anything else. I mean, by the end of A4, we only had 2 groups that had cleared, and by the end of A8, we had 3 groups that had cleared, our group, and 2 groups that cleared 3 days prior to new patch drop. And granted, there's a certain amount of special snowflake status that occurs and is played into that. It overall isn't what you want to see develop from any kind of raids here. So it's certainly nice to be recognized, but I would much rather have multiple groups clearing content and see a healthier raid community as a whole.
So I guess my question to you both would be, and I asked Ingrid this same question, but do you think that Square should use Creator Savage as a base for all the raids in the future?
I know that, they sort of designed the difficulty as a response to feedback from the last year, like Final Foil was too easy, so let's make Gordias. Gordias was too hard, so let's make Midas, etc. Midas was still too hard, so we're gonna go make Creator. Let's see, but like, what was I saying? Oh, I forgot the question. I had a thought.
Do you think Spark should use Creator Savage as a base for all the raids in the future?
I think it's a good start. If they keep this as a base for, I mean, maybe you can step it up a little bit or add a couple of fights to the tier, like 5 or 6 fights. I was really hoping they'd add like a bonus 5th fight only in Savage, where it's like some crazy shit happens, but unfortunately they didn't, which I was disappointed about, sort of. I think it'd be a good baseline, yeah. But I think they would have to sort of, add that. I think if they could add a higher difficulty piece of content every once in a while, it would be enough to keep people happy.
Yeah, I certainly think keeping, like, if you were to incorporate it in the sense that A12S would be the new baseline for raid tiers, it's an interesting mix there, because it's certainly nice in the sense that you don't really have to focus too much on the sense that individual responsibility can royally screw a group over. As much as I would like to see some more personal accountability played into each raid tier, I do believe that ultimately it's probably better in this way. I feel that a good balance between what T9 and T13 was, as far as mechanics and your DPS and HPS or HP checks went, would be a good overall feel for it. If they could find a way to incorporate the second coil Savage, like we discussed before, in a way that it wouldn't affect your overall weekly lockouts, and it would give more hardcore groups an incentive to keep progressing with harder content, it would definitely be better as a whole. But I mean, right now, I'd say that A12, or at least the creator raid tier as a whole, is probably a pretty decent baseline, and maybe somewhat like increase the elevation of difficulty as time goes on. Obviously not to the point where we saw what happened with Gordias, but certainly just trying to see how far you can push your community or your raid tier player base without coming across with skewed results like we had during Midas, where I think it was 1.5% of American players had cleared, and like maybe 3% of Japanese players had cleared. Like that in itself is pretty insane. So.
Oh yeah, I was just wondering, because I asked Angry the same question, and their response was that they wanted a mix of Midas and Creator. But yeah, I was just curious to know what your thoughts were.
Yeah, I'd say, like, from Midas, like, I loved 6 and 8. I hated 7, but so something like that would be nice. Yeah, but I think that might be a little bit too hard in terms of helping the raid population thrive.
Yeah, I feel that as far as creator goes, like maybe the DPS and HPS checks could have been, or the healing checks could have been a little bit more intense, like not to an astronomical level, obviously, and then maybe incorporate a little bit more as far as mechanic intensity goes in this, like Midas was, for the most part, being very mechanically intensive. But finding a good combination between the two would probably be, in my opinion, the best route to go.
Yeah, just kind of playing off this question. A topic that keeps coming up whenever something like this is asked is the mid-core content, right? Like, it sounds like all of our wishes are, we still need something like the creator, or something between creator and Midas even, but we still want something harder. Like T said earlier, we want some creator, or we want savage, you know, and I think the main problem was we won't. At the very least, we haven't gotten both. We haven't gotten normal mode, and normal mode along with like I guess for lack of a better word, extreme mode or hard mode, and then the actual savage mode, which is the hardest difficulty. And we don't have that three-tiered system because that's also something that Reddit has been harping on, and I think even on the official forums that like, mid-core content is lacking. And if we don't have mid-core, then we have hardcore, and it's too hard. And if we don't have hardcore, then we have mid-core, and we still want some harder things for the more, people who want a harder challenge.
Yeah, and maybe with the new expansion they'll be able to be a little more flexible with how much content they can put in the game. We'll see. But yeah.
I mean, they are dropping PS3 support, so
that's true.
they have a huge gap to fill now, and apparently their budget was like tripled or something like that.
Yeah,
so.
I heard that.
Honestly, I think dev kits and working on PS3 is fairly expensive, partially because it requires more time, and it requires more time to get things to work smoothly on it. So the fact I don't want to tout dropping PS3 support as a silver bullet, but it kind of feels like it is, because like there's just so much work that goes on in between, even keeping games compatible between like PS3 and PS4, and just creating new assets for different, almost not. They're still the same base console, PlayStation, but they're really different beasts still. So that's just a little thing on that I'm hoping. And the triple budget thing sounds pretty good. Alright, well, I think we've kind of wrapped up most of the like super serious questions, and we're starting to get into the more, I mean, they were still pretty fun, but we're getting into the more fun ones or the lighthearted ones. And I want to start it off with, why do you think the Savage gear isn't dyeable?
To be honest, like I haven't even thought about it. But I'm not a glam master like some of the other people in the static. David's rocking some sort of, I don't know, maybe he's not a fireman anymore. He was like Fireman Astro.
Well, there was a time where he decided he wanted to dress like a hobo. He wanted to look like a poor college kid, so
got him.
Yeah. I don't know why it's not dyeable. I think it's they try to like make it look somewhat different from the normal mode gear, which is why I think they're like we made it different. I don't want to make it dyeable now, because I mean that's our resources or whatever. So maybe that's just where they decided to put their resources. I don't think they were trying to copy like Final Coil, because I don't know. I don't really know much about the coil gear. Was it all dyeable, or just Final Coil wasn't dyeable? I'm not too sure.
Final Coil wasn't dyeable.
Yeah, it wasn't dyeable until they made the crafted pieces for it.
But second wasn't either, right?
And even the drops aren't dyeable. The crafted gear is the way to go for dyeing it.
I think as far as not making the Savage gear dyeable, I think they were trying to make a compromise between specialized gear, or like gear that stood out, as opposed to gear that you could just get normally. And I don't entirely understand their decision not to allow the gear to be dyeable. I understand it in the sense that, especially with some of the gear, it has specific color patterns to it, where if you made it dyeable, certain parts would be dyeable and other parts wouldn't. But I think overall their idea behind it was that you would be able to see a distinct difference between the color patterns between the two, which is something that I've noticed between the prototype gear and the end game gear, is that certain things have a distinct color pattern, like more specifically the aiming boots for Bard and Machinist are solid black for prototype, but one of the legs on one of the boots is solid red as a whole for the 270 pieces. So it's I don't know. It's interesting to see that being incorporated, and it definitely gives it a certain unique flair to it. But at the same time, it's slightly inconvenient, just in the sense that you don't really want to have to work your glamour around that.
Yeah, I think as we were talking about this and we started making comparisons to Final or to Coil in general, I think they might have. I think this was not an oversight, but an actual design decision where we get the gear now, and the crafted dyeable version comes later. So, like you said, they made the compromise between the prototype and the Savage version. They're similar, but there's enough of a difference to know that, you know, whoever's cleared Savage has the arguably cooler version of the gear. And then in 4.0 probably, or maybe even near, no, not, I don't, never mind, I don't see it coming before 4.0. Maybe in 4.0 we'll be able to get crafted Alexander gear as as glamour, and then Palace of the Dead can crash that market too. All right, Caine, you want to go on the next one because you're the one that pointed out pointed out and told me I had to look at this. Remember in Idleshire?
Oh, you're talking about the. How do you guys feel about the A12S mount? I saw Lalafil on it, and I just couldn't help but die laughing.
Yeah, the Lala A12 mount position is pretty funny. It looks a little ridiculous. I don't mind the mount. It's a little funny looking, but it definitely stands out, you know? I guess that's one thing you want from a mount, considering we don't have titles.
Yeah. So while the tier is relevant, it's a 100% drop rate, right? And then after it's no longer relevant or no longer current, it drops to like whatever A4S is. I don't know what the drop rate is.
The mount? No, it's 100%.
Oh, it's always 100%.
Yeah, the mount will always drop. I mean, there's only one mount that drops per instance. It's the same for A4.
Oh, cool. Okay. Well, never mind. Thank you for
so it's I mean, it's nice to know, like, so everyone will have their mount within 8 clears, and that's exactly how it was before. It's just a matter of who gets it first.
All right, on to the next question. Are you guys working on or wrapping up your 260 Anima step now?
I started working on my 240 step like the other day. I think that's the next one. I had the 230, I think, for Paladin, but I'm not really actually working. I'm like halfway through the Umbrights and stuff like that.
Yeah, that phase is such a pain in the ass. I wasn't a fan of it. I don't really care for this next step either, to be perfectly honest, but I'll take it for what it is.
Yeah, I mean, as definitely as far as the 260 Anima goes, I couldn't justify it now because I just bought my scripture weapon and upgraded it to speak as well. Yeah, I don't know of anyone in our raid group that is working on it seriously, as opposed to maybe for glamour, if anything else. And I mean, obviously the relic weapon is meant to be more of a grind than anything else, but I can't reasonably justify going after it at this point, given the state of our static and like how, or as at this point where we've cleared content, so mine's just kind of like sitting in flux at like 230, and I think I think maybe I have like 15 sands on it right now, so I don't know. I've contemplated doing another relic for warrior or something on an off class, because they'd be more likely to complete it then if if I was trying to get gear for a secondary class, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm really hoping that they do a kind of like another Zeta step, where it'll be your best in slot at like 280 or 285 or something higher than our current content that we've got weapon wise. But I'm curious to see what happens.
I'm kind of mixed on that. Like, I would be, I think, okay with it being 275 or the same eye level as the current raid gear, to work closer towards the end of the patch cycle, where they start to incorporate, or where they're getting ready for the next patch, or kind of the next expansion. I don't know that I would want to see it rated higher than the actual raid gear itself, just because it would almost feel like it would invalidate all the work that we've put into clearing content at this point.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that it'll end up being 275. In the end, I wouldn't be surprised if they did 2 steps between now and the expansion, like 260 to 270 and then 270 to 275. I don't know. Depends how much time they really need to fill. But I mean, it could just be 260 to 275 when 3.5 comes out, or 3.5x. But yeah, I agree with Sammy. I wouldn't want to see it over 275, but I'm pretty sure Square isn't planning to make it go over 275.
Well, yeah,
We'll
they're,
see.
they're pretty good
Yeah.
they're pretty good at keeping to the old formula. And what was it? The old relic stayed at
Yeah.
135, same as the Dreadworm.
Yeah, it stayed at 135. All right. So, what are you guys planning on doing now with your static? Are you just going to keep clearing stuff, or you guys going to try to sell clears to other people, or?
So I mean, right now we're doing our clear still. We don't have a lot of our loot. We're actually doing our weeklies tomorrow for this week, so we'll get our our belts and stuff if we need them. I mean, right now I'm sitting on I-257 Paladin. My Dark Knight is 260 only because I have the 270 weapon. But yeah, and then we're doing. We want to work towards some speed runs, get some really fast clears. We've had some like pretty competitive times on FF logs against all servers. Our fast Z was like peaked at like 4th fastest, I think, the other week, and it was like tied with Angered or something, or maybe 1 second slower, which is pretty cool. And then our other fights, we can work on optimizing and stuff. And then on the side, we're doing some sales, and we sold a couple runs already. And shout out to Eva for putting that together.
I mean, if you guys want to, you could take me through A4F, because I really want that damn mount. I mean, there has to be some type of FC mate discount.
Yeah, we could probably organize something maybe in a week where we have more time. But
yeah, I mean, like at this point, if you can find a decent group who at least is semi-competent in their jobs, like I guided an entire group through A4 Savage not too long, or not, but a week or two ago, and none of them knew the mechanics, and literally just called them out as we went along, and we still managed to clear. So there's that. But I mean, as a whole, I think over the next few weeks, couple months, we'll probably, as a static, we'll at the very least get our BIS gear out of the way, knock that out, and raid intermittently. I know that I'm probably going to be taking short intermittent breaks from the game. I'm probably going to be doing some raid logging for the most part, and just being there for the static when they need me, but I'm going to focus on some real life stuff right now. And then as far as selling runs go, that's pretty much just been like whenever I get asked. If something's going on, like I'll participate. But overall, yeah, I just kind of got other things that I'm focusing on in my life right now.
All right. Well,
Real life comes first.
yeah, that's totally acceptable. All right, and that wraps up the question portion of the show. So thank you guys very much for getting through this with us, and it's been a lot of fun. And thank you, Genos, for joining us in this interview as well. That brings us to our current little thing that we're trying, a little bit of extra. It's time for the minigame. Yeah, too, getting a little excited. So the way we have it, the way it works is, and as interviewees, you guys are also allowed to participate. You guys are going to, that's why you sat through it? Okay. You guys get to do /random right now, and the highest roll gets to play in the game.
Oh yeah, let's go! Let's go!
Oh,
Got him.
Let's see what David gets.
Oh boy.
All
All
right, David. Oh, Jesus, it gets worse.
Yep. It's opposite. Lowest score wins. No, I'm just kidding. T, you win at the highest roll. So you get to look for the portrait. Alright, I'm going to switch off the loading screen on the stream so you can't be cheating.
Ah, damn it. I'm this. Oh, where'd you go?
We moved over here.
Follow me out to the other side of the
Oh shit, what is this? There's like 3 doors. Oh god.
Oh, yes.
The price is right.
So everyone has to stay back behind me. No getting up close. No cheating. Rotating your camera. And wait, did I do that right? Okay, I did it. Okay, so behind one of these doors. Oh wait, let me turn the stream on again. All right, so behind one of these doors is a portrait, and I'm placing the markers down. I'm super hyped about this.
Well, he can't see them.
So, you have to choose before you go up. You have to choose A, B, or C, and then open that door to see if you won your prize. And it's as simple as that.
So A is yes.
And it's the middle. Okay.
It goes in descending order. Correct.
Leaving you.
I'm gonna go with A.
All right, walk on up.
Shit!
You got it. Man, that is 3 for 3, dude.
We did it.
Can people fucking... That's 3 for 3. This is crazy.
We did it.
What a guy.
Dynamo.
Alright, yeah, man. Congrats, you win.
Nice. Damn.
So you get your choice of a 250 high quality, of course, crafted chest piece.
Oh, shit.
You're free to do whatever you want. Gear your alt, sell it on the market board, trash it.
Oh, yeah. Mail that parry to it.
All grade 5 parries.
Yeah, and then 4.0 rolls around and parries OP.
Everybody knows that parry is the fucking paladin's best stat.
Alright,
Disclaimer. Parry is awful.
Well, congrats on your congrats on winning. That's
Nice.
crazy.
I won the minigame.
Yeah. So just let me know which piece you want, and we'll get that sorted out.
All right.
Nice. So yeah, I wanna thank everyone that's here, and to thank the people who were here at the beginning but unfortunately left, so they are no longer eligible for this minigame.
Feels bad.
But yeah, I want to thank you guys for coming out. Thank you, Caine, for co-hosting this. Thank you, Genos, for being our guest host. It's great to have you on.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah,
I enjoyed doing it. Good. Glad you guys enjoyed yourself. We'll have to bring you guys back on. When David and Eva are free again, we'll have Sammy and T come back and essentially just shoot the shit.
And it's
I
actually
still have
pretty.
to work on the raid chart.
Yeah.
Too many groups now.
Yeah, so I want to shout out our cross promotions and general announcements. Everybody, remember to check out Genos's post when it's published. We're definitely I'm gonna share it on Facebook and on Twitter, whatever, whenever I get the link. So look for that, Genos. Do you have a ETA on when it's gonna come out, or?
No, there's too many. Like for the raid chart, that's a whole different graphics piece. But the small interview with Oatmeal should be coming out on Tuesday, the earliest.
Sweet. I'll have to go check that out then.
This coming Tuesday.
And then Phoenix is getting their interview, but I don't know when. Like they have the long one this time. Because Oatmeal had theirs, and then that shit was like 20 questions.
It was pretty long.
Ingrid had like 22.
Well, we'll
And
definitely.
Elysium's was so big that we had to split it.
Yeah, you did it in 2 parts. So that's always good stuff to read. So I highly recommend people check it out. It's a good read. The last 2 bits of news on our show. We just started to give a little bit of airtime to cross promote the Fanfrit community events. Next Saturday, November 12th, that is next Saturday, there will be a winter time sale out. I think that's the name. I think I just butchered it. Auction Winter Time Sale. Next Saturday, the 12th at 10 p.m. Eastern. And for our show, Caine and I are looking for people interested on being guests on the show. Not necessarily, regular guests that have to show up every week, but just being a guest on the show. And we plan on having a new section, just interviewing Fanfrit players, seeing what do they like to do, why they're on Fanfrit, their experience on Fanfrit. It's kind of like I don't know if we've settled on a name yet, Caine, but we were thinking of something like Know Your Neighbors or something.
Right, something along those lines. It's like kind of know your fellow players, something along that. Because I know Fanfrit's getting a little bit bigger again, and there's just a bunch of random new people. There's a bunch of people I have never seen before. And I would honestly like to get to know quite a few of them, just so that way I have that friend base that if I need something, I can call upon a couple people to come help me, or if they need help to come ask me. I mean, same goes for just about anyone, I'm sure.
Yeah, and we're kind of, that's kind of the theme of our show. We're kind of Fanfrit centered, so if you guys are free to come back anytime on the show, anytime you want to come back, and we'll have a pretty standard template of questions and possibly a couple unique ones for you if we know a little bit more about you, or we have a couple things we want to poke fun at you. I bet Caine has a couple. But yeah, that's definitely something new we'd like to move forward with. So that is the end of our announcements. Does anyone else have any shout outs or news they'd like to share?
Is this the time where I get to sell out or what?
Yeah.
Yeah,
This is the time.
Alright, hold up, I got this list. Okay, so shout out to CyberPower PC for giving me the opportunity to be posting on their blog. Shout out to Machinima for anything YouTube related, because I do stuff for the Realm channel sometimes. And to Drift 101 for... Actually, I'm supposed to be getting filmed for like drifting a car or some shit. But my only experience is watching Initial D, so I don't know. And that's it from me. Otherwise, yeah, shout out to Horizon Link Shell and the Situation Room.
All right, anything from you guys, T or Sam?
Shout outs to Genos, and my shout outs are in his interview. Check it out when it comes out.
Yo, thanks, man.
Anytime.
Yeah, shout out to you guys for doing this interview with us. Shout out to the raid group, obviously, for pushing through to clear content, and shout out to a special person out there for me for putting up with my shit for the last 2 weeks. So there's that.
Who dat?
I'm not saying a word.
All right. Well, anything from you, Caine?
No, not really. I mean, yeah, that's pretty much it.
All right. Well, I want to do a shout out to my wife who is taking care. Oh, well, no, I guess she stopped. For a while, she had taken the kitties into the other room so that they wouldn't run around here on my desk while I do this. But I see Harper out here causing trouble. So
Yeah.
shout out to my kitties, Harper and Binks, who are also with us in the show, right here, down here. And yeah, so thank you again, everyone, and that is it for tonight.
Yep.
All right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, have a good night, guys.
You too.
Peace.
You too. It's been fun. Peace, nigga.
Yes, it has.
You did it.
Yes.